Welcome to the Champs App podcast, where we help players and parents demystify the world of minor hockey development and recruiting for both girls and boys. On today's episode, I talk all things girls prep school hockey with Tabor Academy head coach Eric Long. We discuss how New England prep hockey works, how it compares to other female hockey options, the boarding school experience, the admissions process, and of course go into detail on the Tabor Seawolves. This was a great conversation with Eric, so I hope you enjoy it. Before we get to today's amazing episode, I wanted to give you an update on Champs App. We now have over 80 college coaches with verified Champs App profiles, most of them from D1 schools, and we continue to add more coaches each week. Once you create your beautiful, free hockey resume on Champs App, you will have a personalized profile link to share with coaches and teams, or you can connect with team coaches directly within Champs App. Coaches not only learn more about you as a player, but they also get notified of your upcoming schedule, when you add videos, and where you are playing if you change teams. Just go to champs.app and click the sign up button to start or update your profile. If you want to learn more, look in the show notes for links to the list of college coaches using Champs App and videos about why and how to create your free Champs App hockey resume. I'm very excited to have on the podcast Eric Long, who is the head coach of the Tabor Academy girls prep hockey team. Originally from Longmeadow, Massachusetts, Eric played hockey at St. Anselm College and then had a long professional career with stops all over the U.S. before heading over to Germany to finish his playing career. Eric then coached boys hockey at Union Kimball Prep School before coming over to Tabor in 2007, working in the admissions offices as well as a hockey coach. Welcome to the podcast, Eric.
Thank you, Ray. Nice to be here.
So happy to have you on the podcast talking about prep girls hockey. But why don't we start out like we do all of our guests, telling us a little bit about your hockey history, playing in Springfield, Massachusetts, and then moving along to a college career in a pro career.
Yeah. So I grew up in Longmeadow, Massachusetts, and played junior hockey like everybody else out in that area for the junior picks, and then was fortunate enough to play for the Springfield Olympics, coached by Gary Deneen. Who's since passed, but a hockey legend for sure. And we had some great teams along the way, and I was fortunate to play with a lot of great guys who went on to much better careers than my own. But then moved on to St. Anselm College. From there, played 4 years of college hockey. Following that, I said, let me give this a shot, see if I can do anything with this. And I went over on a European tour actually, and got picked up by a team in Denmark. That's probably not and so I stayed a month in Denmark at 22 years old. I was just turned 22, and I made it about 6 games, and I said, I got to go home. I was sick. So I got into the East Coast League, played for a bunch of years there.
And you played in a bunch of non-traditional markets. I see Raleigh, North Carolina, Mobile, Alabama, Jacksonville, Florida, Arkansas.
I did. I did my first few years, naively thinking I had a chance at the NHL, which I never did. And then got married, and my wife, my wife, who's still my wife now, was like, she was in law school at the time. So I gave her my shot, gave it 4 years in the East Coast League, and said, you know what, I see the writing on the wall here. And she said, I'm exhausted from law school. And I was living in Jacksonville and on the beach. She said, why don't we live in Jacksonville our first year married and have some fun? And so then that kept my career going and kind of bounced, from different spots to live around the country, and then made it to Germany, and which was an incredible experience playing 2 seasons over there. But then I started becoming a 30-something-year-old minor league hockey player, and I needed to get a job.
Gotcha. So a couple things. So first of all, it's still pretty impressive that, from going to St. Anselm, you still had over a 10-year career playing professional hockey. So that's pretty impressive. So kudos to you. Related to that is I saw that you were quite the offensive defenseman. And so I got one really basic real hockey question from your playing career, which is how do you score goals as a D?
So when I was younger, I could actually one-time it. Now I'm a little too old and creaky to one-time too many. but I would put up some pretty good numbers in the power play, and so I had a pretty heavy shot back when sticks used to be called sticks and they were made of wood, and so I could heat it up over 90, and so that tended to be pretty hard back then. Now you can kind of flick your wrist and shoot at 90.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay. All right. So that's the secret, is basically have a really hard shot that goalies can't stop.
really hard shot and a good release.
Gotcha. So what made you kind of move over onto going to the prep school and specifically coaching side of things when you got there? Obviously, you were working more than just a hockey coach, but how did you end up in kind of the Kimball Union doing some coaching?
Yeah. So I had some good friends that were in New England prep schools. So as a minor league player, obviously during the summer I would work hockey camps throughout out around New England, and a few of those people would be hockey coaches. And so one of them actually is the boys coach here at Tabor, who's a good friend of mine, and he had started much earlier, and he was raising his family in a boarding school, and I was kind of, what am I going to do? Am I going to go into sales? Am I going to go into education? Am I going to start a business? What am I going to do? And that was in my mid-20s. I started kind of thinking about that before I finished. And so that's kind of how I got into it, is the other coaches who were teachers and all these things, they enjoyed the life part of this, the experiential part of this. And so, being on teams through my 20s and being in these, non-traditional markets, your team is your life really for 7-8 months. You live in Arkansas, you go to weddings and you meet your teammates, girlfriends and wives and kids and all this stuff. And we like the community part of that. And so this is kind of a continuation of that. It's a bigger community. There's high school kids involved and all these other things. But it's the same idea of kind of living where you work and being immersed in the culture and the community that you live in. And so me and my wife kind of said, let's give this a shot. Maybe it's too much. Maybe there's too much community, too much whatever. But here I am 19 years later. We love it. My kids my oldest just graduated from Tabor. I've got 2 at Tabor now. And I've got another son who hopefully, assuming the admissions director will follow in his siblings' footsteps. But it's been, just a great way to raise a family. And I think part of it too, you touched on it about my own career in hockey. I moved around quite a bit, every 6-8 months, or even call-ups, go here, get on a plane, do this. So kind of finding a place where, a community, a school where we could kind of put down some roots and live. And it just happened to be Tabor. Kimball Union was great first stop for us. We loved it up there. But we have family closer to this area down here. And so this kind of worked out, and the school keeps asking me back. So I keep coming back, and we love it here.
Beautiful. So you've totally led into kind of my next set of questions around the prep school experience. So just at a really simple level for a lot of folks who are unaware, who don't live on the the East Coast, how is prep school different from just a regular high school? So obviously you kind of mentioned this, is that a lot of the teachers or the staff actually live at the school, kind of, and I'm probably dating myself, but it's kind of like the Dead Poet Society kind of style of living. So maybe just talk about it for folks who don't understand the difference from just attending regular high school, what a prep school experience is like.
Yeah, and it was new to me as well. I mean, I attended public schools all the way up until St. Anselm College. And so, prep school is basically a mini university or college. Our campus here at Tabor, there's 45 buildings, there's 17 dormitories, we're on 85 acres, and within the dormitories, there's faculty homes. And so I live in a faculty home, and I go out kind of a mudroom door, and I've got 24 boys that live behind my house in the dorm. And so you're immersed in this culture, where you're getting to know the kids, and the kids are getting to know you. And the teachers also everybody kind of lives on campus. And so, your math teacher could be your dorm parent, and it could be your hockey coach, and so on. So it's a different way to live as an adult, but as a student, I talk about, especially in my role in admissions, but even when I'm recruiting players, The hockey piece is great. No one loves hockey more than me. I love it. But from an experiential life experience, you've got so many committed adults that are really invested in you as a person, in you as a math student, in you as a as a writer, in you as a poet, in you as a ceramicist or a hockey player. I mean, you've got all these adults that are, mentoring you and all these things that some you're passionate about, some you're learning about, some you're being exposed to, and it's in addition to your parents parenting you, so for parents out there, it is different to send your student away at this age, 14, 15, 16 years old. But it's also a gift that you're still their parents and you can still mentor them, but you're also, exposing them to some really high level adults in whatever, coaches or teachers in all these areas. And so they're having a life experience that's pretty remarkable, quite honestly, as I see it through my own kids' eyes, and think about my own experiences in high school at a great high school. I went to a wonderful public school. But just what they have here is just phenomenal, So
and how are the academics different from a traditional public high school, or even a private high school, just a local one to where people live?
Yeah. It depends. There's a wide range of schools, in the New England boarding schools, and so you've got some schools that are definitely very academically rigorous, demanding, and a little bit of academic support, and then you've got on the other end of that spectrum, you've got a lot of academic support, and maybe they deal with learning differences, stuff like that. And so as families think about learning about schools, what kind of student do you have, and then what kind of school are you looking at? Who does that school serve best? And so a place like Tabor, we have support, but we're rigorous, and so I guess when you think about, what does a day look like? You're in school 8 to 3:15. You're probably going to do, 2, 3, 4 hours of homework every night, in order to be successful. That's the kind of the dad speech I give the boys in the dorm a lot about, well, what kind of grades do you want? Because if you want okay grades, put in an okay amount of time. If you want good grades, put in a lot of time. And so, but I think the benefit is, because we all live on campus, like I reference my own kids just because I see it firsthand. They need science homework. They can just text their science teacher during the day. Hey, can I stop by your house tonight for some help? Yeah, sure. Whatever. Let me get my kids to bed or whatever. And we can sit at the kitchen table and I can help you with your chemistry homework. Like that happens. And not just for my kids because I work here, but for all the kids, and so there's the unstructured, which is stuff like that, and then the structured time, which is there'll be a math teacher, a science teacher in the academic building from 7 to 9, Monday through Thursday night, so kids can drop in and get some homework and some assist with some homework and stuff like that. So there's the added benefit academically, there's the added expectation and the added rigor, I think, of a traditional public school. But the added benefit is you have an extra support too,
Gotcha.
Especially like here.
All right, so now we're going to kind of slightly gear towards more of the sports side of things. So, one of the things that I've learned, learning about girls hockey is at prep schools, there's 3 seasons, and hockey is just one of those 3 seasons. So most players play 2 other sports in addition to hockey if they want to go the hockey route. Is that correct?
Yeah, and so that's a good question to ask each school. So, we have a 2-season requirement. So a lot of our kids will play 3, but they don't have to. But they need to be involved in a 3rd season after school. So you can do community service, or you can do art, or or you can play volleyball and lacrosse in the other 2 seasons. It really depends on what your interests are, or strength and conditioning. So there's a benefit in that, I think a little bit of a drawback. I think for New England prep school, and this, I answer this question particularly for families that aren't familiar with the New England prep school model. They'll play split season, so you'll be on a club team that plays in the summer tournaments and the Labor Day tournaments, and then there's a 10-season league in Massachusetts. And so all of the kids that play at Tabor, they're on a club team. They'll do that depending on the school. Like, so our school will have a skills company come in. Paul Vincent Hockey will come to our campus for the girls hockey team on Thursday evenings, and the girls will skate 6 to 7:45 on a Thursday night with one of those coaches, because I can't coach, that the coach can't coach them out of season. So they'll get a skate during the week on our campus, and then they'll play on their club team on the weekends throughout the fall, and then we'll start in November in a traditional high school season of 25, 30 games, 4 practices a week, 2 games, that kind of thing.
Okay, so before we go deep into the hockey side of things,
Yeah.
you talked about the academic rigor, the homework, and then the 3 sports or 3 engagements with whatever activities that they do after school. How do the players balance that? Like, it seems like, when do they sleep? And how much stress is there involved with that kind of level of commitment to both the academics and their extracurriculars, whether it's hockey or other sports?
Yeah. The school schedule is geared around the academic day, but so everything is about school in terms of making sure you have time to do your schoolwork, get into school. So like our kids, like my team last year missed 1 day of school to do a tournament. That was it. We have half days on Wednesdays, so the kids only go to school till 12:15 on Wednesdays, and then we'll play games in the afternoon. So we can get on a bus at 1 o'clock. The kids can go grab lunch, get on a bus at 1, play at 4, be back to campus by 8, do study hall in the evening. And so we've chunked out times for them to play sports, but we've also built in time so that they are going to school, and then they have time to get their work done away from school. So a typical day for us, the kids start school at 8:30, they're done at 3:15. We'll practice, you'll have a team lift or do whatever, film or whatever after school. And then you have dinner, you have some free time, you do your homework at night, you're exhausted, you put your head on the pillow, you fall asleep, you wake up, you do it again. So it's a long day. But it is, you're with your friends, and you're engaged within the school community. So again, as much as hockey is, all the kids that play at Tabor are very invested in hockey, and they aspire to play college hockey, and most do. They also have an experience away from a hockey rink, which I think is really valuable for kids this age, to be able to interact with all kinds of kids, whether they're athletes or non-athletes, because you're getting the hockey piece of it fulfilled in the afternoons. I mean, your backdrop is the Tabor rink. It's literally 50 yards behind me in my office here, and every kid, walks through it and is right there. So you cut down on all that commuting time. You don't drive 45 minutes to the rink and, have a 4 a.m. practice or whatever, you used to do. Everything is kind of built so that the kids are, given the time to succeed, whether it's in school, whether it's in sports, whether it's training outside of their sport.
Perfect. All right. So now let's get into actually playing hockey. So, why don't you just tell folks around how long the season runs, how many games you play, who you play, how that all works?
Yeah. So at Tabor, in New England Prep School hockey, but we're all in the same kind of timeline, which is a week before American Thanksgiving. We'll have kind of a tryout training camp week, and then we'll send the kids home for Thanksgiving, or they'll play with their club teams. Usually they'll play in a tournament over that time. Then they come back from that, and then our season really gets going late November, and so we'll play anywhere from 24 to 28 games, kind of depending on how we do in the tournaments we play in, or playoffs and stuff like that. Typically we'll play Wednesday, Saturday. We'll have some Friday night games. Sunday's an off day, so we'll practice usually Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, play Wednesday, Saturday, but be on the ice 6 days a week from late November all the way to early March.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so we've got a fitness center and a weight room. We've got a strength company that comes in and works with all of our teams, and so our kids will do that 2 days a week, sometimes 3, depending on how tired, how beat up they are from games and stuff like that, before or after practice. And then occasionally we'll get some, some film time in around dinner time. We can use a room off the dining hall, and we can watch some, some highlights, some lowlights, whatever, of the previous few games, and just try to learn that way too.
So you mentioned like they play roughly, give or take, 25 games altogether in the prep school league. And how many games are they getting, with the club team? So total, how many games are they playing, throughout the hockey season?
Yeah, so and so they're probably getting another 25 games or so. Usually most clubs are doing 3 tournaments, 1 or 2 over the summer, a Labor Day tournament, usually states around the American Thanksgiving. And so you're knocking out 15, 20 games that way, and then you get the 10-game season. So you're getting 25 to 35 games with your club team. You're going to get about 25 games with your high school team in a prep school. So you're still going to get your 50 to 60 games in. You're just going to wear a few different sweaters for it. That's all.
So related to that, I noticed that in terms of the total number of girls prep school in New England that have teams, it's over 50 teams. Correct. So like what are the key differences between the various girls prep schools versus the, with solid varsity hockey programs versus the others, right? Like I'm sure there's a big difference between number 45 versus number 3 or number 4.
There's a huge difference. Huge difference. And so what the league has done is we're 1 division. So 1 through, I think it's 54, 55 teams, depending on, who fields a team at the end there. Is create 3 tournaments. And so there's an elite tournament. So the top 8 teams will play in the elite tournament. There's a calculation, your record, your strength of schedule, how you did against the better teams, how you did against the weaker teams, all this kind of stuff. So the elite tournament is the top 8. And then they'll break the next 2 tournaments into groups of 6. And that's based on school size. And so by female enrollment, so if you're a small school, I think the enrollment's 205 girls at your school. If you have less than that, you're a small school. If you have more than that, you're a large school. So if you don't make the elite tournament, you can play in one of those 2 tournaments, depending on your school size. And, the level of play, I have some flexibility. We all have some flexibility in the league that our school is in. So my school, Tabor, is in the ISL, the Independent School League. And so we have to play all the ISL teams 1 time, and so, Nobles, which is another very strong, prep school team, is in the ISL. So that, that's a great matchup. There's other schools within the league that it's not a great matchup, but there's also, that gives the opportunity for some of my younger players to get in there, to get more ice, or to get some ice, or to run the power play, or to get in situations maybe. So it does help with development if you're a stronger team, like Tabor would be. But typically outside of our league, I'm always looking to schedule, Loomis or Williston or the other stronger teams that are always in contention to make the Elite 8 tournament, so that our kids are just every game, you want to get on the bus and not know the outcome, I guess. If you're getting on the bus, you're going to win 8-0. It's not good for the other team. It's not good for your team. But if you're getting on the bus and you're like, we could play our best game and lose, I'm trying to create that within our scheduling as much as possible, because that's how the kids get better, is they're playing at the level of competition that they're at, or over their heads, quite frankly. I mean, there's a few games every year where we could play our best and we're not going to win. And that's okay, and that's how you learn, that's how you get motivated, and that's how you get better.
And would you ever play either independent prep schools like Gilmore or Culver or now Wichenden, or even hockey academies like a Shattuck St. Mary's or a Naha that's probably closer to you?
I don't know. We haven't, and I just don't know if within the NEPSAC, New England Prep School Athletic Conference, we're allowed to play those teams. I don't know how that actually works. So we haven't. So I mean, there would be some good games though, for sure.
And I know I talked about this, the differences between girls varsity prep kind of programs. What's also the difference between like going to a hockey academy or an independent prep compared to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can speak more to the Tabor part of this and what I think is the other part, because I haven't worked at a school that is more of a hockey academy. And what I would say, you know, what I enjoy about, I think they both serve a good purpose. Honestly, I do. I think there's kids that you know, they don't want to try different sports, or they haven't played different sports, and they don't aspire to do that. So, you know, if you're getting a good education and you're fulfilled, you know, at a Shattuck, that's great. But not every student wants to do that. And so I think, you know, the benefit of a place in a New England boarding school and a place like Tabor is that you have the full experience. You have a traditional high school experience in that, like, you can go to the Halloween dance and you can have friends that have never put on a pair of skates, and, you know, like all that kind of stuff. And they may be serious soccer players or basketball players and have a similar passion for something, but it's not the same passion you have. So you know, but at the end of the day, you know, the outcome can be the same. It's really what is good for your student, where they are, and how are they going to be best served, you know? And so every parent knows their kid better than anybody else. But, you know, I often say, you know, give the example, you know, 2 seasons ago, we had 7 girls on the BC hockey roster, you know, and so you can go to Tabor and go to BC, or you can go to BK Select. You can go anywhere. You're going to end up, you know, it's not gonna impede your progress to play New England prep school hockey. It's only going to help. And there's plenty of examples of that. And same with the hockey academies. They're going to have placement that is going to be at those places too. And so, you know, I guess for this demographic, particularly because, you know, professional women's hockey is just getting started, you know, thinking about a college experience and a high school experience and what you want that to be is so crucial, and who your student is and what is their learning style. There's just so many good options for them for school and high level hockey, you know, and you can get both with just a little bit of research, you know, and it doesn't have to be one or the other, you know. It's up to each family to make that choice, I guess.
Yeah, and get the best of both worlds of that, what fits what your needs are. So I want to talk a little bit more in detail actually about Tabor, because we actually didn't talk about like where you're located. So you're in Marion, Massachusetts, which by my math is somewhere between 45 minutes to an hour south of Boston, along the water. And there's been, you know, a long history of hockey at Tabor, from what I can understand, like decades of hockey history there. So maybe just talk about that, and maybe just talk about you know, the Travis Roy Ice Rink and in the Howard Johnson Arena. Maybe just talk about the hockey facilities and the history of hockey at Tabor.
Yeah. So so we're an hour south of Boston, like you said. And we're a co-ed school, grades 9 to 12. And you know, from a hockey perspective, we have 4 different teams. We have 2 boys teams and 2 girls teams, varsity, the JV, and both. On the girls side, you know, the JV program is not necessarily a feeder program. And on the boys side, occasionally kids will move up, but it's not, I wouldn't call it a feeder program either on the boys side. You know, the history of hockey here, we have a facility right on campus. It's the Travis Roy Rink. Travis Roy, for those out there, played at Boston University, and was a tremendous player at Tabor, class of '95. The rink was named after him. Geez, I don't even know, probably 20 years ago, maybe 18 years ago or so. But yeah, it's right on campus within the building. You know, I think it's something that makes Tabor really unique. Not a lot of prep schools have this. So inside of our hockey rink, we've got varsity basketball gym, 3 sub-varsity basketball gyms, a fitness center, a weight room, 9 squash courts, an athletic training complex, physical, our PT people are in there, and rowing tanks, an indoor rowing tank. So it's a massive building. And so what that creates for us is a good turnout for our games, quite honestly, you know, because everybody's in the building, it's winter. And so if you're at a basketball game, you pop into the rink, you watch the hockey game. And so the kids are really supporting each other that way. Hockey started here with girls hockey started with a guy named Lefty Marr, who's our dean of students, who also worked at Milton Academy. And he started girls hockey in 1983, I think he started it here, and started it from the ground up, and kids didn't play as much, girls didn't play as much, or they played on boys teams, and the girls game has just grown, even in my 16 years doing this, tremendously. It's been a lot of fun to watch and see the game grow on the girls side, and the level of play has just been phenomenal. We've had a good hockey history here on the girls side for sure, making that New England tournament, I think 14 of the last 15 years, and, having a chance to win, and having, kids go off and play, in Hockey East and the ECAC and the NESCAC, and, play a lot of good college hockey. We've had a few U18 national level players, both American and Canadian, that have come through the program, that have gone on to really good college careers, and a few of them gone on to the pro game, locally for the Boston Pride. So it's a lot of fun. We've the thing that I love most about the Tabor, the experience here for the girls is just what great kids they are. They turn into great adults, and I'm aging myself a little bit by saying this because I've been here so long, but it's just so fun to watch them go off into the world and become, doctors and lawyers and nurses and teachers and coaches and everything in between. I mean, they were great kids, and they turned into great adults. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun to watch these kids grow and have it. And on a personal side, my oldest just graduated, she played for me, and my other daughter is playing for me now, and so that's been a lot of fun too, to kind of share this experience, which I've shared with so many kids over the years, to share with my own kids, and have that memory for them for the rest of their lives, and for the rest of my life. So it's been it's a really cool thing, and it's like I tell the kids, and it should be the best 2 hours of your day coming out there. Coming out to the rink, you're with your best friends doing something you love to do, and you got the time to do it. And someday you'll have a job. Luckily, you can get a job like mine, and still keep the best 2 hours of your day intact.
So kind of just to kind of wrap up the hockey, where it can take you, kind of a thing. Do you feel that like the Ivies actually look more favorably upon prep schools because they feel like they're better prepared both academically and athletically for them? Because it seems, at least there's at least a couple of the schools that I've spoken to where a disproportionately high amount of the players on the team actually come from the prep school system.
Yeah. I think there's a level of comfort with the Ivy coaches potentially knowing the prep kids are going to be academically prepared for the rigors of their school. Like you said earlier in the podcast, well, that's a lot. They have a long day. They've got a lot of work, and so I think getting them ready for that, it gives those coaches a level of certainty that, those kids, the prep kids, can hit the ground running at those higher level academic schools and maintain, a Division I sport, and train and travel and do all these things. I mean, you get a lot of balls in the air when you're a Division I athlete at the college level, and kind of preparing them at this level to do that certainly happens. So, I don't know if it's a huge advantage, but I think there's a lot of things that we do that really prepare them well. And like you said, there's some rosters where it's majority of prep kids, and so I think it speaks to our league. I think it speaks to our schools that we're getting kids ready for the highest levels of college hockey and the highest levels of schooling that you can find in the States.
Perfect. All right. So now we're going to get into our last key topic, which is around applying to a prep school. So maybe you could just share with me, like, for folks who go like, wow, this seems like right for me. At least I want to explore it. What is the application process? How does it all work? And then we'll get into some of the financials after that.
Yeah, absolutely. So just for some context, I'm the director of admission and financial aid at Tabor Academy here. And I've been in admissions for my entire time in schools. And so the timeline, we'll start seeing families will start scheduling actually now. It's late August. They'll start thinking about school visits in September, October, November, coming to visit the schools. You come onto campus, you go on a tour with a student, you tour the facility, all that kind of stuff. Then you come back and you interview with someone like myself or other admissions officers, and they want to know just how you're doing in school. Why'd you even come? Why do you want something different for high school? All that kind of stuff. So you need an interview. You'll eventually send in a transcript, math recommendation from your math teacher, an English recommendation, a third recommendation, and then you'll write a few essays about, some prompts that we'll give you about life experiences that you've had, and that'll be your completed application. That will be due to us in most schools January 15th. So you're going to want to do your visits in the fall, early winter, work on your app, get that in by January 15th. Once all of that is done, well, I actually should say this before I get further down past January. On your school visit, if you do want to meet with a coach, I get a lot of emails or calls or messages to say like, hey, we're going to be here on Tuesday and we'd really love to hear from, be able to meet you and ask you a few questions about the hockey program at Tabor. And so I'll sit in the living room in the admissions office and just kind of do what we just did now and talk about, we're on the ice 4 to 6 days a week and we do this and we do that. We play this many games and all that kind of stuff, and answer questions for families about the hockey program here at Tabor. All the schools will do that. The coaches will find time to help. So don't think you're nagging or pestering. Definitely ask to speak with the coach, and if they can make it, they will. We do enjoy talking about our teams and our kids and the programs that we've built at our schools. But back to, the timeline, January 15th, you get your application in. Admissions offices are reading and evaluating and rating all the students based on their merits as students, and also figuring out, who's a high level hockey player from the hockey coach and who's a high level flutist from the music director and all these other things. And you're trying to create a class of talented, motivated, hardworking kids who have different interests, and so you put together the class on March 10th. All the New England prep schools will send out their decisions. They'll send out an accept decision, a waitlist decision, or a deny decision. At that same time, they will also send out, if you've applied for financial aid, it will send out that financial aid decision. And so you'll have the information in front of you. I got into these 4 schools. I didn't get into these 3 schools. So let me choose between these 4 schools. So between March 10 and April 10, you have a chance to kind of learn more about the school, visit the school again, talk to the coach again, and really, where am I going to fit in? And that's a good time for especially the hockey players out there to have the conversation with a coach. I graduate 5 to 7 players off my team each year. I look to fill those spots, and give kids a real good idea. Yeah, I can see you as a varsity hockey player. I'd love to see you come to Tabor. You're going to be on the bubble. I don't really see you playing that much if you make it. Or, geez, you're not a varsity hockey player at Tabor. And I want you to know that because I know hockey is important to you. And that's not to say you're not a good player. I just have stronger players in my pool. And I don't want you to get to school and go out for the team and then know what's good. You're not going to make the team and then have to play JV. So I kind of give the kids a sense, and the families a sense of where they'll fit in within the program. And I don't want to, and not just me, but all of the coaches, there's a school for everybody. Like we touched on earlier, the 48th best school and the best school, there's a wide range of hockey player in between. And so there's a school for everybody, and wherever you're learning and wherever you're playing, you want to make that match happen. And so, that transparency and asking those questions before you enroll is important. And that's not to say that the team is necessarily picked and who's playing in what position, but you have a general sense of, these are the 22 kids that can probably make the team, and the 20 kids that can make the team that are on campus, and how much they play or don't play. I mean, that's every Thursday morning, every Sunday morning, you're reevaluating. Like, how did that last game go? This kid wasn't so good. They're going to be on the second line. That kid's going over here, and all those things. But that's the timeline of the admission. So by April 10th, families need to let us know which school they chose. And then let the schools that you didn't choose, let them know too, so they can offer maybe a spot to another student off the wait list. You wanted me to touch a little on the financial aspect of this?
Yeah. Specifically, do you have scholarships? How does that work?
Yeah. So none of the NEPSAP schools will have scholarships. Okay, so you're not gonna. It's not like college hockey where you can be offered a scholarship. It's more like Division III college hockey, where you can be offered a place on the team and you can apply for financial aid. And so families will apply for financial aid at the same time as their student is applying, and all that can be found on the website how to do that. And basically you're trying to, from my seat, you're trying to find the strongest kids academically, who are the strongest contributors, in this case in girls hockey. So if your family applies and qualifies for some level of aid, and you're going to be the #1 center on the hockey team, you're probably going to get an offer of financial aid that'll meet your need, and you'll be sent, a tuition amount that the school thinks you can pay. And that will range based on income. All the schools, have kids that are paying very little to obviously the full tuition. So it's all need-based aid, what you qualify for. Sometimes we can't meet your need, or if there are stronger students and stronger athletes who are more qualified, you run out of aid at some point. You just don't have enough money to fund all the kids, nor do you, if you're graduating 5, I don't need to bring in 10 girls hockey players. So you just, those kids either get waitlisted or denied admission because they're stronger kids in the pool.
Gotcha. All right. So last question,
Yep.
related to the admission process for hockey players. So what's the most important thing they should be thinking about, as they consider which school to pick and getting into the process? What kind of, what should they prioritize as they enter the exploratory process?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And so, the broken leg test is super important. If you're gonna, if hockey is out of the equation, do you like where you are? Do you like the kids that you're going to school with? Do you like the school you're at? All of those things. And so if you start from that side, I love the school. I loved the people I met. I know a few kids there, or I don't know the kids I met on my tour were great. This feels like a place for me. Then you move, I think, to the hockey side of it. Like, did I like the coach? Did I like some of the girls on the team that I met? Is the rink good? Is the schedule good? Is their college placement good? All those kind of things. But I think if you move in that order, you're choosing school with strong hockey that meets your needs. And you kind of put a checklist together. And I talk a lot about this to families in the process. The New England boarding school world is, the people who live in New England, or if you're willing to fly to Boston or Providence or New York, within 4 hours, you could find the perfect school for your child. Perfect. Like the perfect level of hockey, the perfect level of academic rigor or support or wherever, just because there's just so many great schools and hockey programs, within a 250-mile circumference in New England, that if you do your work, you can check all your boxes. It meets all of the needs of your child and your family, and you can and play the high level hockey that you're hoping to play and have an opportunity to play in college and so on. So I think we're lucky out here in New England. So we see families from California and Texas and Florida, because there are some great non-traditional markets that have really good players. And so, you don't have to drive 3 hours to practice and 3 hours home. You can just walk across the street and jump out on the Tabor rink or whatever school you decide to go to, and play some high level hockey. But that's the pull or the draw, I think, the benefit that you can get in some of those non-traditional places, but you just have to get to New England to do it.
Perfect, perfect. Eric, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the Champs App podcast, sharing everything that you know about Tabor Academy and the prep school process, and especially from the girls' varsity hockey program. I'm assuming folks can go to the Tabor website and find all the information on how to learn more and how to contact you.
Yes, yeah. So taboracademy.org. Head to the website and feel free to send me an email or schedule a visit, whatever you'd like to do. But yeah, it would be great to meet some players out there. And we do graduate 5 this year, so I'll be looking for 5 new kids.
I really want to thank Eric for coming on the podcast. I learned a lot about girls prep school academics, the boarding experience, and the hockey program. You can learn more about Tabor Academy on their website, and you can connect to Eric either on the school website or his Champs App profile. Links to all of them are in the show notes.